Hey, welcome to Look Back Laughs. Today on the show, we're going to look back at Canadian icons, Canadian comedy icons, continuing to bring the funny all these years later. Today on Look Back Laughs, we look back in the career of the Kids in the Hall. Boom! Hey, welcome to Look Back Laughs. My name's Pete. You know me from Canadian stand-up comedy. And Look Back Laughs, we're going to look back on people who have influenced my comedy over the years and inspired me to get into comedy. And with me, as always, is my buddy Scott, who is in South Korea. Hey, Scott, how's it going, buddy?
Hey, how's things? Things are pretty good over here.
Are they? Okay, good. Yeah, we're still in lockdown. A lot of great feedback on the show. People are enjoying the show. There are nice comments coming in. I think people are enjoying looking back on who's inspired me in comedy and can relate as well. So that's all you, Scott. That's all you, buddy. You're putting an amazing show together here. So yeah, kudos.
Thanks.
Right on. Today we're going to be talking about Canadian comedy icons, the Kids in the Hall. So let's kick it off, Scott.
So Pete, how did you get tuned in to the Kids in the Hall the first time?
Tuned into the Kids in the Hall. Well, that was exactly it. I tuned in on CBC television. I don't have a memory of tuning in the very first time, but I think it was one of those kind of caught my eye. Who are these guys? New Canadian comedy troupe coming up on CBC, and I think it caught my eye in a way that I was like, oh, this is different from other shows that I've seen on CBC television. And we know we grew up in the 80s in Canada. We grew up watching Codco, Four on the Floor. There was some sketch comedy that happened on Canadian television, but the Kids in the Hall seemed to have an edge to them, and that was what caught my eye the very first time. So first time I saw them was on CBC television.
That show started, I guess, airing regularly in around 1989. So that would have been grade 10, maybe, in high school for us. Yeah. And, so I'm guessing you didn't tune in like for the first episode. Like it was probably something that was been on a few times and just happened to come across it type thing. I think that's what it was for me anyway.
Yeah, same story, hey? So, yeah, I think I caught it, and then, like everything, it's, kids started talking about it in high school, like, what is this what's this sketch comedy show on CBC? I think the first one that I watched was SCTV. That was what caught my eye as a young kid. And then Saturday Night Live, and then Kids in the Hall came along, and all of a sudden it was like, oh my God, we've got, like young people doing sketch comedy from Canada, from Toronto. So being Ontario boys, hey, all of a sudden we're rooting for the home team. Yeah, it was remarkable. I remember recording the hell out of all of them, and then moving down to New York for acting school, and then bringing all my VHS tapes because I was going to show everybody what the Kids in the Hall were doing in Canada. And then I found out, it was already airing on CBS in the States anyway, and all my American friends knew of the Kids in the Hall already. So, yeah, tremendous fan from a young age.
And one thing I noticed with the Kids in the Hall, like you said, sketch comedy. I found it different than like Saturday Night Live and stuff. Do you know, was it filmed in front of a live studio audience, or it's, from what I remember, it used to be more like I guess like acting in some ways, like they would actually just make short films and put onto a TV show. I don't remember a live audience.
Oh yeah, for sure. They recorded. They did a duel kind of thing. They did live in front of a studio audience at CBC, but they also took the cameras outside and did like television. Like they shot exactly like you said, like short films, but it was filmed sketches and then they would play them back in the studio so that the audience could react to it.
And the Kids in the Hall, they had, was it 5 members, I believe?
Well, and if you go back, like the history of that sketch troupe, it had like a revolving cast of a few dozen people that have been in the Kids in the Hall over the years. But the 5 members that made the TV show are the Kids in the Hall when you think of it. And what's remarkable as a young guy watching these guys and idolizing these young comics, as I got into comedy, I've worked with all of them at some point or another in my comedy career. And that never fails to blow my mind when I'm standing there going like, I'm actually working with the Kids in the Hall now. I've done a million shows now with Scott Thompson, who I performed with him at the Rivoli, which is where the Kids in the Hall originated. I remember standing backstage with Scott going like, is this the same kind of feeling as you guys had back when you were doing the Kids in the Hall? I said, it's exactly the same. It's just, they started at the Rivoli in downtown Toronto, regular Monday night show that they had going on at the Rivoli. And Lorne Michaels was, scoping out for Saturday Night Live. And then he saw the sketch troupe and he decided that he didn't want to break up the sketch troupe. And then he discovered them and then brought them to HBO and to CBC. And then they launched the career of the Kids in the Hall that way. But it all started Monday nights at the Rivoli. And then that tradition just continued with the Alt. Comedy Lounge. It's a stand-up and sketch mix of comedy every Monday night at the Rivoli. And it's been going on for 20-something years now. And that's kind of where I got my start was the Monday nights at the Rivoli, same as the Kids in the Hall. Yeah, and then got to work with all the kids at one point or another, and actually did a sketch with them when I was a writer on The Hour with George Stroumboulopoulos. The kids came on the show, and we did a sketch, and I couldn't wait to see my sketch with the Kids in the Hall, and then it aired that night, and I got cut from the sketch. So perfect way to yeah. But yeah, I've worked with all the kids at one point or another. I worked with Kevin McDonald here in Calgary at the YYC Comedy Festival. A fun story with Kevin. He asked me, because he was emceeing that show, and he asked me, he said, what can I say for an introduction, Pete? And I told him, okay, go up there and tell the audience that your next act asked me for an autograph while I was standing in line at the Uptown Theatre in downtown Toronto for a screening of LA Story, and he still has that autograph in a photo album. And he laughed. He's like, is that true? I said, yeah, absolutely. That's true. Yeah. So I was down there to audition for my acting school, and I bumped into Kevin McDonald from the Kids in the Hall. It just blew my mind and got his autograph. And yeah, still have that autograph today.
And the other 3 members, I guess there was Mark McKinney.
Mark McKinney, yeah. I've bumped into him at a few auditions around Toronto over the years. Bruce McCulloch. And Kevin McDonald, Scott Thompson,
and Dave Foley,
and Dave Foley, of course, yeah.
I think Dave Foley went on to do some. Was he the one that was on News Radio?
He was on News Radio, yeah. So and he was the judge for Last Comic Standing when they came to Toronto, and Dave put me through to the Toronto finals when I was on that show. So again, I've crossed paths with all the Kids in the Hall over the years. And it never fails to blow my mind because, 16-year-old Pete would just be losing his mind knowing that he was rubbing elbows with Canadian royalty,
Yeah, the only guy I can't picture right now off the top of my head is Mark McKinney, but...
Mark McKinney is currently on a TV show called Superstore with my friend Lauren Ash, and I think they're into the 6th and final season. Yeah, good for him. Big NBC hit show, and... yeah, Mark's they're all doing great, and currently in production for a new version of the Kids in the Hall coming to Amazon Prime sometime in the future. It was announced just before COVID hit that the Kids in the Hall were relaunching their show along with Lorne Michaels, and oh my God, huge news, exciting. And then all of a sudden COVID hit, and I was like, we better not shut down society just as we're getting a new Kids in the Hall. So yeah, we need to get back so that we can get the Kids in the Hall back on TV.
And Bruce is a guy I remember the most, but I don't recall him ever seeing him after the Kids in the Hall or doing much. Right. But was he the guy that used to do, I'm crushing your head?
No, that's Mark McKinney would do that. Mark McKinney did the crushing your head guy. Bruce McCulloch's famous character was Gavin, the little kid. They all had standout characters that were such smashes on that show. But Bruce, it's funny because when I did the hour and they came on the hour to do the sketch that we were doing, Bruce was the one that read the sketch. So imagine, writing a sketch for the kids in the hall, and then Bruce McCulloch's reading it and reading all the stage directions and complimenting the sketch, and my mind was blown. But it was funny to see that dynamic. I'm like, oh, so Bruce is kind of the boss here. So, which I didn't see, behind the scenes, obviously when I was a kid. But Bruce was kind of like the director of the show, and obviously it was all a collaborative. But it was just interesting to see that Bruce was the one reading the sketch, and
And Scott Thompson, I remember quite a bit because it seems like he's been the most active since Kids in the Hall were on TV. And I've seen him in a lot of places, and he had a couple really, famous characters in Canada from the show. So,
for sure.
I can't remember the name of his one character, but he
played Buddy.
I've seen around.
But his character Buddy was it was Scott Thompson's Buddy character was a smash on that show, and and then he's been on Hannibal since then, and Scott's worked a lot in television and the Larry Sanders Show, obviously, and we were lucky enough to have him on our Snowed In comedy tour a couple years back. So that was beyond fascinating to hang out with that guy, and just I called him like a jukebox, like a celebrity jukebox. I would just throw out a name, and then he would have a story about hanging out with them. We'd just be driving in the truck, and then we'd ask Scott Thompson about, hey, so we'd say like, what about, Marilyn Manson? He'd be like, yeah, Marilyn Manson. What? I was at a party once, and he said, this is what he said. I was at like another famous musician at the time, and I said, Trent Reznor? He said, yeah, I was at Trent Reznor's house. So what? So these amazing stories that he would share. And I told Scott, I'm like, you got to write a book, buddy. Like, this is, this is important to document this. So, it was a thrill to tour with him. It was a lot of fun to hang out with, and one of my absolute favorite scare pranks of all time. We were traveling in two different vehicles, and we just happened to stop at the same gas station. But Dan and I were ahead of Paul and Scott, and they didn't see that we were in that same gas station. So I'm sure you're going to cut to this footage here, but I snuck up and scared Scott like I was some kind of lunatic crackhead fan. To this day, my favorite scare prank I've ever done of all time. Scared the hell out of Scott Thompson at a gas station in the interior of BC.
It's the guy from the Kids in the Hall! It's the guy from the Kids in the Hall! I know you from the TV! I've seen the guy in the TV! Get the fuck away from me!
All right, Pete. So as always, how did the Canadian comedy show, The Kids in the Hall, have an effect on your comedy?
Yeah, well, they definitely did. And how they affected me was, I guess now growing up in Wawa, watching the Kids in the Hall up in Northern Ontario, it seemed tangible. Like, it seemed like, oh, this is something I could do. Like, this is, these guys are, Ontario guys, and they've got Lorne Michaels on in their corner, doing comedy. Like, they're doing it. They're putting comedy out there on CBC, and they're a hit. So I think they inspired me right from the get-go. And then talking to Scott and all those guys over the years, and just getting like an insight of how influential Lorne Michaels was in the formation of that TV show. Because if you look back on the Kids in the Hall, like, they really pushed the envelope. Like, there was nudity on CBC, like there was swearing on CBC, like there was, outlandish characters that would, I to this day, I don't think it could, in 2021, I don't think you could put those sketches on CBC now. And the reason they got away with that was because they had Lorne Michaels in their corner, and he would just tell CBC, yeah, this is what we're going to do. And they didn't really have any pushback because he's Lorne Michaels. He's got the Order of Canada. So that was remarkable to hear that kind of thing, because that's how you get these things done, is that you've got someone powerful on your side to keep pushing for you. Yeah, we need more of that. We need more Lorne Michaels in Canadian comedy, pushing the envelope for everybody, because we need more Kids in the Hall. And I'm looking forward to seeing the new series when it comes out on Amazon Prime. Well, that's the episode, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. As always, make sure to hit the like button if you liked it. And if you loved it, hit the subscribe button. It helps out the channel so much. All our links to our social medias are in the description below. Make sure to give us a follow on all the socials. So Scott, what else is going on with you? Do you want to do any plugs for stuff that's going on over in Korea?
No, there's not too much going on over here other than rain today, and nothing to plug at the moment, but you can find all links to everything the same down below in the description.
Right on.
So,
well, once again, thanks so much for cutting this together, and it's fun making a TV show with you, bud. It's all these years later, and we're still creating weird little videos, eh?
Yep.
All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. Good night, everybody. I'm crashing your head. Hey, thanks for watching all the way to the end, guys. If you're looking for some more clips, we got them posted up here and over here. Maybe they're down here, but also hit that like button. Thanks so much for the support, and we'll see you again down the road. Good night, everybody.